feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast, and we are brought to you by Prize Picks, coming at you Monday morning. It's November 10th, and the Wolves are now 10 games into their season. So coming up on today's show, I'll be joined by Wolves beat writer Jace Frederick from the St. Paul Pioneer Press to just sort of take stock of this team 10 games into the season. How have they performed? What have we learned? And what has changed over these first 3 weeks of the season? We do have a Wolves game this evening. Monday night, the Wolves play in Utah against the Jazz again. So we'll talk about, we're going to be talking about the Wolves in advance of that. But because they do play Utah tonight, we'll start right off the top with some prize picks. I have two from this game that I like. Julius Randle's number for assists is set at 5.5. He had 10 assists against the Jazz in the first half. Was that like 4 days ago? They cannot guard him one-on-one, which typically means double teams come and Julius becomes more of a playmaker. So give me more than 5.5 assists for Randle in this game. And then Kyle Filipowski, his number is set at 8.5 points in this game. I just think Filipowski is one of the better players on this Jazz team. So give me more than 8.5 points in this one from him, or, get weird and boost it up to more than 14.5 points. Maybe he'll be a primary scorer in this game for the Jazz. If you do, I looked it up. If you do Randle more than 5.5 assists and Filipowski at more than 14.5 points, and they both hit, you do a $10 wager that would pay out $75. There's always something going on over at Prize Picks. Just as a reminder, how it works: you put together a lineup with between 2 and 6 players. And all you need to do is put 2 in and do more or less on that number to win a lineup. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, all you need to do is put in the promo code Dane when you do sign up, and you will receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code Dane when you create your account. All right, talking about the Wolves, 10 games into the season with Jace Frederick is coming up next. Let's go. All right, we are now joined by Jace Frederick. 10 games into the Timberwolves season, the Wolves are 6-4, and as of Monday morning, they are 3rd on offense in the league, 19th on defense in the league, and 8th in net rating thus far this season with a plus 6.6, which is the equivalent of what a 56-win team would be, according to Cleaning the Glass. Jace, we know this has been a little bit more chaotic than those numbers indicate, but we are 10 games into the season. The Wolves are 6-4, and as I sent to you, the first thing I want to just kind of talk about is, like, how should 6-4 feel right now? How happy internally should the Wolves feel about being 6-4, 10 games into this season, given that they've missed Ant for 5 games, given that, the defense is kind of proven to be missing Nickeil Alexander-Walker some, and given that the whole C word continuity has not totally cashed in the way that maybe we thought of before the season, how do you think they should be feeling 10 games into the season?
Well, okay. Ant missed.
Well,
yeah, but they went 4-1 in those games, right? Like, I think they only lost to Denver.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can say 6-4 without Ant. They went 4-1 without Ant. Like, I mean, so that I don't even look at like, and that's without having Ant for 5 games, because they played some pretty bad teams and beat them. It's, I guess, like, for me right now, 6-4, it sounds good. And the thing is, obviously, it started poor and it's looking better now. So I think anytime like you see progress and things are going in the right direction, it's like, oh, pretty good. It looked good against bad teams, really good. Like, frankly, great. Like, I don't want to overlook that. Like, they've looked excellent for large chunks of these games against the bad teams, which is not always easy to do. It's not a lock to do. We've seen that from this team in the past and many other teams in the NBA. And they've looked pretty bad against the good teams. And I think 6-4 would still be disappointing because at the beginning of the season, I was like, oh, wow, look at this team. Like, all the guys they have coming back, look at the schedule. Like, this team could start like 14-3. And obviously that's already out the window. So in terms of the bar of, can this team contend for a championship? I think 6-4 is not good. But it doesn't mean that they can't get there and that maybe it was just a slow start. And there's more hope, I think, of that for them we just came out of the gates bad. But also there hasn't been a good performance against a good team yet. Portland, I guess, maybe could be the one where you go, well, you won in Portland, and that's not going to be easy to do this year. But yeah, I mean, the highs have looked really high, especially of late against the bad teams, but it's very inconclusive, maybe even more so than a regular 10-game sample size, because it's been so one way or the other, depending on the night and frankly, the matchup.
I want to talk about the Ant thing a little bit. And I do understand this is me leaning into like the glass half full way of it, but I'm thinking about how actually you and I, like late after the Portland game on opening night, we were texting about Ant and how great he looked in that Portland game, which, if like we're being honest, like a lot of the time we'll have like our little private text sessions afterwards, be like, oh, Ant didn't do that, or Ant wasn't
Those are private.
Yeah. We were blown away by Ant in the opener. Mm-hmm. Right? Like we were in that game against a better opponent, specifically against a better defense. And I bring up the Ant missing 5 games sort of point. I'm glad you brought up the record, because that does kind of dispel a little bit of the 6-4 piece. But I am intrigued by the idea of a different iteration of the beginning of the season where Ant doesn't do the hamstring. And we get to see Ant play in all of these 10 games. I think there's a world where those 10 games, maybe 8 or 9 of them, kind of feel like the sum of the Portland game, the Utah game on Friday, and the Sacramento game the other night. And we're still maybe pointing at, some of the defense stuff and what's the point guard, whatever. We go, Ant is up, like this is another level for Ant. And I think we need to like bake in some of that. And we need to also remember that even if they went 4-1 in those 5 games, maybe not we, but generally speaking, there was a lot of concern out there about the Wolves and what they were doing in those games that Ant missed. And this team, everything's burning, whatever. I just think if they would have had Ant this whole time, there's a world where we're feeling pretty good about this. And that we shouldn't be, yeah.
Must have been 3-2, right? 3-2, because they lost to the Lakers and with Reeves when he had that game, and then they lost to Denver. So it was 3-2. So that's a little different than 4-1.
But
I just want to put it out there, so when somebody listens, they're like, "You guys are wrong. You're an idiot." I was just thinking in my head while you were talking about and so great, blah blah blah. I was thinking in my head of that, and I was like, "I'm going to get that corrected right now." Go ahead, back to your point.
It's just that if Ant is awesome, that's just going to solve a lot of the issues that we were really, really highlighting during the 5 games out piece. I think because of that, I think internally, if I was Tim Conley or something, I would be like, well, thank God this didn't just unravel and we're like 3-7, 10 games into the season, and then there is some sort of greater pressure on. I think that pathway exists to start this season too. I'm just saying 6-4, given that things haven't been as clean of a start as they expected. I mean, they are 6-4 because of the opponent largely, but yeah, I think internally they should feel good, because this has not been like the continuity, we're ready to hit the ground running team. Do you get where I'm aiming at with this?
Yeah, but I disagree. I mean, 3-7 against this schedule would have been really hard. Like Brooklyn's won 1 game and they've lost, and they're getting blown out a lot. And Charlotte is now getting beaten pretty handily a lot. These teams are not good. Sacramento is not good. There's just been, I mean, Indiana's won 1 game. Like there are a lot of gimmies that they've had that it would 3-7. That would have been almost impossible. I mean, just
fair. Okay, fair.
Maybe 5-5, 4-6. I think even that would have been kind of tough. But I'm with you. But I really do think those games against some bad teams where Ant was out, I think that was kind of important to get like Jaden McDaniels rolling, Dante DiVincenzo rolling. Like there is just, even like Ant's come back, and I think he's done a nice job like acclimating himself into the offense of not losing any aggressiveness, but just doing it quicker. But also like in general, it just feels like they're ceding more to just playing with pace, just getting the ball up the court. It's finding other people. Randle's kind of getting things started a lot of times. And they've fallen back into that. And I don't know if it would have come as naturally with Ant out there to start. Like, I just think there was too much, like, beginning of the year. I think this happens a lot where it's like, well, get it back to Ant, but when you're like a Jane McDaniels and you had the performances you had when Ant's out, you get into the rhythm and everybody tells you, hey, keep that up. And you're like, yeah, okay, it doesn't matter who's out here. Like, if I get the ball off the catch and it's my job to go take this one-on-one matchup on. And I just think that maybe all the pieces have fallen into place a little bit better, where right now the offense is really rolling. And I don't know if it would have been really rolling at all of these levels if Ant was out there the whole time.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. I think it just did breathe some oxygen, obviously, into Jaden, and then we'll talk about Julius too. But like, Julius didn't have to worry about lowering his usage rate so as to include Ant, and instead had really high usage and was really effective. It just, Julius would have been a little bit different this season too. You're right. There's a ripple effect to Ant not playing for the positive as well. I think a good way 10 games into the season to talk about like how our perception has changed externally, us, and their perception of the team has changed internally, is to like talk about who their guys are. And I think a way to do that is like the playoff rotation. And so what I sent you was, what do you think their playoff rotation would be if the playoffs started today? And is that at all different than we would have said before the season opened on October 22nd or whatever it was?
Yeah, so I didn't know if you wanted like minutes. I didn't do that, but it was just like,
no, just who's in it, who plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very similar in that it's the top 8, but the 8, I do like Jalen Clark has probably passed Terrence Shannon there. Not to say that Terrence Shannon would never play in the playoffs, but we are in a spot right now where he's hurt and he wasn't playing well before. And so I'm interested to see when he is good to go, like, is he getting any run? Is it matchup dependent, anything? Or is it just when they wait for a time in the year when other guys get hurt or they feel like they need a shot in the arm? Because right now it would be hard to not say like it's those 8. I don't even think Rob will get minutes. It would be those 8 guys, the top 7 plus Jalen Clark. Jalen probably in like a 12-minute range, like right around like 15, and then everybody else playing a lot of minutes. I think that's about where we're at. And I think that seems pretty clear. And the only thing that's changed really in those first 10 is like you thought Terrence Shannon Jr. was going to be solidly in that top 8, and we'll see when Jalen Clark gets minutes. And those two seem to have flipped, both from like injury but also play.
And to be fair, too, we didn't know the starting lineup change, right?
That's true.
So
When
we were doing training camp pods or whatever, if we went back and listened to some of that, even just from 3 weeks ago, it'd be like, oh wait, Dante starts, and there's some ripple effects off.
Yeah,
of it. So sure. I just say that to mean like it has evolved a little bit, and I think very crucially to like Jalen Clark, and the biggest issue that's presented itself that we've talked about in every single episode we've done so far this season is the defense without Rudy Gobert on the floor, and that being something they need to address. And it felt like last night against Sacramento, they did kind of what the personnel suggested that they have needed to do, which is play Jaden McDaniels and Jalen Clark out there almost always when Rudy Gobert is off the floor. And I think that is Finch's rotation was curtailed to that last night. And I think it's just the way we need to think about it. Like, we need to think about it as like the non-Rudy 4. It's when Rudy's off the floor, it's Naz, it's Julius, it's Jaden, and it's Jalen, and those 4 guys need to be on the floor so as to sort of stabilize this defense that has been chaotically bad when he's been off the floor. I thought it was interesting last night. You look at the first substitution of the game, and it's Reed, Conley, and Clark sub in for Randle, McDaniels, and DiVincenzo. So Rudy's still out there. So you got Gobert, Reed, Clark, Edwards, Conley out there. And then the next substitution at the end of the quarter is it gets it. So Reed, Randle, McDaniels, Clark, and Conley are out there. I think Conley, maybe Ant, maybe Dante are kind of the 5th in that group. But I think Jalen Clark has proven to be critical to this team because they need more defense, especially when Rudy Gobert is off the floor. And for that reason, you'd say 12 minutes a game for Jalen Clark in the playoffs. I wonder if that might not be enough. If it was this team today, going into the playoffs, I feel like Jalen Clark is critical to this team defensively. And I think I do believe that if it was a playoff series, I mean, maybe the opponent would matter some and what Jalen's utility could be in something matchup specific. But I think this team has proven to need Jalen Clark, and that's been, to me, the biggest differentiator from what I thought this team was going to look like, or what it was going to need going in. Versus, I guess, versus what it's actually been.
Yeah, honestly, my 12 for Jalen Clark mostly comes back to Nikhil's usage in the playoffs. It would always go down to 15 or 16 minutes. And sometimes Nikhil wouldn't always play well in the postseason, but it was very quick to be nope, back down, pulled back down the minutes. And Jalen barely played in last year's playoffs. So that's just where I kind of land right now. But I agree. If I was
and how ignored would he be in the playoffs, and his offensive stuff get funky? I mean, I get what you're saying.
And frankly, I don't even think it should be this way, but I think as a coach, when you're watching it, you're like, man, they're just ignoring him out there. We can't be out there. And you're not paying attention to the advantages that you're getting on the other end. Especially if 2 open threes don't go in and you're like, we can't survive like this. Your offensive woes just seem to be what you kind of focus mostly on when the playoffs start, because it's how do we adjust? You're thinking that all the time, and that's kind of, I think, what sticks out the most to you. But yeah, I mean, because otherwise, when you think about it, it's Jalen should almost just be Rudy's sub. And obviously it won't work like that. Another forward will go in, but that would make the most sense. So if Rudy's going to cut down to 30 minutes a game in the playoffs, as he sometimes does, I think the optimal version is for them to make that so that doesn't have to be the case. That should put Jalen at 18 right there, at minimum. But yeah, I'm with you. I think they found something. I think I first noticed it the Charlotte game. I don't know if it was the start of the fourth quarter or something where they did the Jalen, Jaden, Mike. It has been those three a lot of times with those two guys. And now they've really committed to it, like you said. It as kind of the always when it is those Nas Julius front courts, and it does seem like more of a solution. And it makes sense, right? Jane can theoretically be out there for more rim protection alongside Randle and Nas, but what's the best way to make up for a lack of interior defense? It's perimeter pressure, and then you have two guys who can do that, and that just alleviates a lot of the concerns because teams can't get to whatever they want, and obviously what they would want is the things where they can expose Nas and Julius on the inside.
So related to an 8-man rotation means you're not playing 9, which means it's kind of more static who is playing with who through the course of the game. We learned that last season when the Wolves only played 8 guys. And I wonder, I was thinking about this last night during the game of did that DiVincenzo, Reed, Alexander Walker bench benefit and be as productive as they were as a collective because they played so much time together? It was always that group out there. They were always out there at the start of the second quarter, fourth quarter, and it was for this extended stretch of time. They played for 5 or 6 minutes without a substitution happening. And I wonder with this team right now if it would benefit from that, if it would benefit from more intention of having those guys play for a longer extended period of time. If it's now the bench guys being Conley, Clark, and Reed, and you kind of brought them in together as Finch did last night, and you give them more of an extended stretch. I just feel like for this team to get better on defense, they need more extended stretches of time with good defenders out there. And I think Rob, I don't think it really mattered last night. I don't think when Rob checked in for Mike and it was Reed, Randle, McDaniels, Clark, and Dillingham out there, that was oh my God, this got wrecked because Dillingham was in instead of Conley. But I do wonder over a 15 to 20 game sample size or something like that, if you really made that your group, your second unit group, would it get more comfortable from the bench? Do you get what I'm kind of getting at there? Rather than once you have a 9th guy in your rotation, whether it's Rob, Shannon, whoever, you kind of add this tail to your rotation that ends up breaking up lineup combinations. If we look at this team's minutes distributions or lineups, there's just going to be a lot more lineups this year, given that they're playing 9 or 10 guys versus when they were playing 8 guys a season ago. There was just fewer lineup combinations. And I always wonder, just in basketball in general, I wonder if that continuity helps. I think it would benefit this team.
So last year it was all about how got to extend beyond this 8 guy thing. A little static.
Not to me.
That's true. No. I agree. No, and you and I were kind of on that same page there, but it is like, I agree with you because defensively, one of the great things about like a Jalen Clark is like he plays so hard that they can have mistakes, and he's like, and the way he plays, the tenacity, the energy can cover up for it. But so many of the problems early in the year were like, yes, physical things, but it was connectivity was terrible. Like the switching and whatnot, and just even like the overcommitting of help. It's just like it's like a lack of reading the game, but also maybe a lack of communication, a lack of trust of like, this guy's here, I don't need to be in here, like this is covered. And I think the more you play with guys, the more you're like, no, I know he's going to be there, he always does this and then these spots, we know like this is what we do. Me and him do this in this situation. And the more that you can establish that with like that second unit, and you have Jaden obviously and his defensive aptitude, and Jalen Clark, running around like a wrecking ball defensively, that on top of communication. So it's not always having to cover up for each other, but it's like, hey, we're in our spots and we're doing it at like a high intensity and a high ball pressure and all that stuff. That's what makes it to like, okay, we're surviving it, to like, this unit's not bad defensively, that kind of thing. So I agree with that.
That's what it felt like last night.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
It felt like a shift in that way.
Yeah. It's like, if it looks like, I don't know if you'll ever get it to where like, yeah, those 5 guys are on a string or whatever, but it's like, they know where they're supposed to be. They're in the right spots, and like they have enough defensive ability to kind of shake things up and make things difficult. I agree that that's the best way to solve communication issues, because you have to trust each other and you have to kind of know what each other's going to do. And the best way to do that is through reps.
And I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't play Rob Dillingham. I get there's an other path going on here, and there's other value to that too. It's just that was not as prioritized last season, and the team benefited from it in the ways that you just laid out there. And there's going to be some opportunity cost in that way from playing Rob Dillingham this season. And hopefully there's another positive externality off of Rob playing it, more offense. I think he's feeling more comfortable there, but it seems silly to say there's a big difference between playing 8 and 9 guys. And I do think there is, from a defensive standpoint of knowing who you're with. It is different to, if you're Jalen Clark, to switch a screen with Mike Conley than it is Rob Dillingham. It just is. It's maybe something they wouldn't even be willing to do. There's just differences based on the personnel.
And it's always like, and this is the challenge of trying to take what you're seeing and use it to, I guess, context clues for what will happen against other opponents. But right now, does it ever feel like they need an extra offensive burst from what we've seen lately? No, I mean, just the way they're playing, it's like, oh, I don't know if you need someone else to break down the defense, because with the pace and ball movement you have, like Jaden's comfort kind of going one-on-one, Julius Randle can break down the defense, Anthony Edwards can obviously break down the defense. They're doing it pretty consistently. Like, their offense has been pretty excellent. I'm just watching back this morning. It's like they aren't taking bad shots. There are very few shots where I'm like, that was bad, or that offensive possession stalled. Like, it's a lot of good shots that are at least giving guys the ball in advantageous situations and letting them go from there. So that problem is a little bit solved. Like, I don't know, maybe when you face another, like, look, obviously against Portland, it was terrible. And it kind of had to be the hero there. And maybe the same thing will happen against like an Oklahoma City. But I think if you keep drilling, playing the right way, then maybe offensively that will just be more banked in your head of, this is how we play, and we can push through a little added resistance when those other opponents come, and be a more effective, maybe less effective than what it is right now, but still an offense that can function even against high level defense. But again, we'll see. Maybe you do need that extra creator. I don't know. Like, time will kind of have to tell that.
Today's show is brought to you by Falling Knife Brewing Company, and we want to let you know that Falling Knife now has a promotion going on in the tap room for every Wolves game through Scoreboard Social. How it works is you can scan a little QR code at your table or at the bar in the tap room at Falling Knife, and you, for free, can play kind of interactive games related to the Wolves game going on the screen. Again, it's kind of the same sort of thing, different scoring or rebounding, whatever type of propositions. Again, it's all free, and winners throughout the night win free drinks and other awards from the bar at Falling Knife. You already know Falling Knife is the best place to watch the Wolves amongst Wolves fans, but this season they've added this piece to make the in-tap room game watching experience even better. And also, if you are going to the tap room to watch a game, we would love it if you went and picked up some second apron beer from them. We collaborated with Falling Knife on a beer this year that we named Second Apron. You can buy Second Apron in liquor stores, but if you're going to pick up a bunch, would of course like you to grab it directly from the source. This coming weekend, the Wolves play on both Friday and Saturday. Get out to Falling Knife Brewing Company for one of those games. That's Falling Knife Brewing Company in Northeast Minneapolis. Let's move over to Julius Randle. 10 games into the season. For the year, his counting stats are 24 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists per game while shooting 41% from 3 and 61% from 2. Those numbers reminded me of his numbers at the end of last season. I went back and looked them up in those final 21 games at the end of the season when they went 17-4, also against lighter competition. Julius Randle averaged 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists while shooting 40% from 3 and 59% from 2. I think there's a lot of power in that 40 from 3 and 60 from 2. There's very few guys who do that in the league. And then in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, it was 24, 6, and 6 from Julius on 35% shooting from 3 and 59% shooting from 2. I guess there's some open question if the shooting piece sustains from 3 with Julius, just given that he's been a variable. There's been variability to his 3-point shooting over the course of his career. Though, man, it looks really good. He looks really confident in that shot. So I think there's something to be said about that. These numbers feel somewhat sustainable from Julius Randle. We haven't done one in a while. I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what Julius has been thus far this season, being such a high usage guy and being so efficient in his offense thus far this year.
There's only one shot last night, 1-3, where I was watching and he did like the hold the ball jab step 3. Yep. And I don't think it went in, but it was like, wow, like the 3s are going in and there's such better looks than that. And like last year it was like the offense was kind of devolving into that. It was like, well, this is what we got, and so that he's taking it. It's like, it's a bad shot. It's like, well, there was nothing else to do. They're not getting to that. Like, he's been so awesome at just like quick decisions. I'm getting to my spots or I'm getting off of it and we're getting it to other people. Just like reading it very quickly, like processing. We always talk about, hey, it's easy. You have this matchup and then you see where the help is and kind of go from there. But it's processing like instantly. And that's why the ball is moving. And he's just kind of running the show at a really high rate. And it's really, when you watch the offense right now, especially since Ant came back, it's like Julius Randle's like perfect to have next to Ant, of like, can kind of be the de facto point guard. He is like, take the charge of it, get the offense started. And like, he's really good. So I think Ant's like, yeah, this is fine. Right. Yeah, obviously Julius can get it started and I can play off the ball here. There's a trust of, I know he's even said it, like Ant said it, like Julius has gotten Jaden going, like that kind of stuff. It's easy to see that everybody else is succeeding because Julius is kind of running it. And now Ant can come in and be his aggressive self, but let Julius get it started as well. So having like a forward who can kind of initiate an offense and create for himself and others, like as kind of Ant's Robin, like we saw it in the playoffs and we do see it now. Like, it looks really good. And he's the one who's most picked up for where he left off a year ago. Jaden obviously too from the playoffs. Don't want to like forget that, but I think Jaden's even playing a little better than he had it towards the end of the playoffs last year. And same with Julius, obviously, but it looks really good. And this is like the most where the offense has looked the way that Chris Finch probably always wanted it to look. And I think Julius is such a driving force of that. It's like they just needed someone to get it started on a night-to-night basis and get the possessions off in the right direction and with the right pace and all of that. And Julius just gets it. And is just
think about the starts of games last year. Right? Yeah. And how it would be like, we'd be 7 minutes in the game and be like, all right,
8-6,
14-6.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Right.
And now, you get, feels like 2 minutes into a game and Julius has 6 on his own, and not forced and clean. And you're like, well, this is a great way to start this, because if he can score one-on-one on this guy right away on 3 of the first 5 possessions, like, they're going to start bringing help. And then once they start bringing help, Julius is extremely willing to play off of help and, be a distributor. That was the Utah game on Friday night. And Julius has 15 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds in the first half. It makes sense, the progression of what they're getting through offensively, even at the start of games. And that's because you're getting a Julius Randle. But we've talked about that a lot. I wanted to talk about the contract a little bit, because I think as much as we've lauded his play, I haven't really brought up the new contract that Julius Randle is on, at least since the summer. And 3 years, 100 million is looking like beyond a bargain for this version of Julius Randle. He signed this new 3-year extension, and he had a player option at $31 million. You turn that down, the new extension goes 31, 33, 35. So he's not getting any more money this season than he did a year ago. He's locked into, the contract of what often like a third or sometimes like fourth guy is getting on teams. I sent this to you, but Julius Randle has the 55th highest salary in the NBA this season, again at $30.9 million. The 5 guys just ahead of him in earnings this season are Tyler Hero at 31, Jordan Poole at 31.9, Jeremy Grant at 32, Drew Holiday at 32.4, and Emmanuel Quickly at 32.5. What he's doing at his dollar value compared to what those guys even can do in their most optimal situation is a huge difference. Like that is a hugely valuable contract for this team right now. And especially when you consider that Nas got 150% or 50% pay raises, making 150% of what he was last season, going from 14 to 21 million. You needed this, right? And this was kind of the whole vision from a salary cap standpoint of trading Cat, was trading Cat's 55 million for a player who made less, who you could then bundle together with another player to make as much as Cat. That's where we're at right now. Like Julius 31, Nas 21. That's 52 million between the two of them, which is less than what Cat makes individually. It kind of makes this whole thing work. Not only Julius's play, but from a salary cap standpoint, given how expensive everyone else is, that he's making 30 million rather than like 42 or something like that that's a huge win.
I would just say the 5 ahead of him, I think all of those would probably qualify as bad contracts as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like they wouldn't be like, I don't know, like who else falls into the good 30 million range, like where you'd be like, yep, that's right. I guess maybe I think Drew, even at this age, people would be like, probably not the version he is now at that dollar. But the
guys right behind him are DeJounte Murray, Kristaps Porzingis, CJ McCollum, Jalen Johnson, and Isaiah Hartenstein.
Okay,
Jalen,
Hartenstein and Jalen Johnson would be the ones where you'd be like, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I agree that Julius Randle drives winning way more than those guys do. He drives it twice as much as the guys that you previously listed. So I think that's a good barometer of like a Jalen Johnson and what was the other one? Sorry, you just said it. Hartenstein. Yeah, like that's. Like Hartenstein certainly helped OKC win a championship, but you see it like it is like the 5th player basically. And Randle they benefited a lot from it being this summer. Like, and I don't know if maybe they were able to forecast that. If so, like that's a big kudos to them. But there was no money this summer. Like there was I think when Randle signed, we were all like, yeah, that's a good deal. I mean, it was like the team definitely came out in a good spot there. Not like it's a bad spot for Randle. Like nobody feels bad for somebody only making $31 million this year. Like if I gave you $1 million, you'd be like, oh my God, my life has changed forever. Right. It's like, well, he gets 31 of those this next year. But
it was the market. It was the market.
No, the market worked out great for Minnesota.
It was not a market for Julius Randle.
Yeah, and no, for anybody. I mean, who could make that much money? I mean, this summer, nobody could make that. So like, it's not even just player. It's not like, oh, he fell apart against OKC or whatever. It's like there was not that available for like anybody. And so teams were able to kind of negotiate on pretty solid ground from their standpoint, and they have this deal that looks like it's going to age pretty well here for the rest of Julius's prime, because especially if he just keeps going. Even just plays just this. If it gets no better and stays right here, like it's like it's an all NBA player, like and it's incredible value. Yeah. So they have to feel really good about that. And frankly, like I know I hear a lot about like oh my gosh, developing guys, not developing young guys, blah blah blah. It's like it has to be noted that Julius Randle is playing. I know he's been like all NBA before, but like this is the best basketball of his career, and he's doing it under Chris Finch and this coaching staff, and that probably should be pointed out.
Yep. And just because we have pointed that out and we have pointed out how effective the numbers are. I just did want to bring up the contract thing because I haven't done a segment
awesome. Yeah, it's an awesome
on it there. And people might have, forgotten. We're like, oh, wait, is he on a new contract? It's the same. Yeah, he signed a 3-year, $100 million contract. And if you look, just remember that next time there's a Shams tweet about some kind of mid dude getting an extension. Remember what that is versus what you're seeing from Julius Randle, and that Julius Randle is making $31 million a year. What do you want to do next? You want to do the defense through 10 games, or you want to do McDaniels?
I guess I'd do the defense. What do you feel about where the defense is at now? It's certainly been better these last 2 games. There's no question about that. But just like holistically right now, how do you feel about it?
I feel like they turned it on this weekend on Friday and Sunday. And it was the Utah Jazz and the Sacramento Kings. But I thought from a just like watching it, right? Like I rewatched the beginning of the Utah game before it was, fell completely into a blowout. So like the first quarter.
Pretty loose. Yeah, got pretty loose for everybody on the court after the first quarter and a half because that's what it was done. Yeah,
it was done. But in the time when it wasn't done, I really liked the way they executed. Like I really liked what it looked like, and even against like Utah, like they run all this off ball movement, and they're trying to get Lauri Markkanen coming off of off ball screens and in advantage situations. And I thought even Julius Randle, like at the beginning of that Utah game, was super dialed in on sticking with Lauri Markkanen in that time. I thought when they tried to go to pick and roll, but when Utah tried to go to pick and roll, or Sacramento tried to go to pick and roll, like I thought the Wolves pick and roll defense blew it up and executed defensively really, really well. I don't know how to take what that was and apply it to like an estimation of how it'll go on Saturday when you're playing Denver. But I've been really hard on the defense this far this season because I thought the Naz and Julius minutes have been ridiculous. Like that's my complaint with the defense thus far this season, and effort at times. But since they kind of got like slapped in the face 8 games into the season, said all the things of like, oh, we're only a sometimes team defensively, we need to be in all the time defensively. Since they said that in New York on Wednesday, in the 2 subsequent games, they've played like a team that knows they can be better defensively. And I think from a watching it standpoint in those 2 games, it's like the arrow is trending up. And I think Rudy's still proving to have that similar defensive value that we were used to. Not 2 years ago, Rudy, but like I think I'm seeing a really impactful defensive Rudy Gobert along with Jaden McDaniels coming back to what he was. What was it, after the 3rd or 4th game when Finch said we need more from our all-NBA defenders and Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert? Like they did, and they've gotten that from those 2 guys. So yeah, I don't know. Arrow pointing up, but I don't know anything about this team against good teams yet. Like I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'd feel a lot worse about it if I hadn't watched these last 2 games.
It like right now, and I don't expect this to continue. I really don't, because I like what they've done these last 2 games totally, just from approach and just how they are, just the general like fierceness with which they're defending. But it's like if you just look result for result, it reminds me of the 21-22 season where it was like just like that high wall manic pressure. Like it would kind of put the bad teams in a blender a lot of times. It'd be like, Jesus, like these guys are playing really hard, and then the good teams, it would be like Luka would play and it'd be like, oh, he's just picking this apart. Like it looks like there are 10 holes out there on the court. Right. Like Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton are running like a pick and roll. It's just like a short roll. It looks exactly like Ayton playing with the Lakers this year, frankly, against the Wolves. But that's what it reminded me of. Like the good teams would be like, this defense is terrible. And the bad teams would be like, this defense is incredible. And it equaled out to like 12 for the year. They don't play. It's not like the same style, and I don't expect that to continue because I do think
I get what you're saying from a feel standpoint, though. Like, yeah, it really F's up the bad teams. Yeah. And the smarter teams will be like, okay, this is what we're doing. We then need to do Y, Yeah.
Yeah. It's like pressure. Like the pressure can just like throw the bad teams just for a loop. And then the good teams, though, it's like, yeah, pressure is great, but you also do need to communicate because we are going to do 2 different things to this. And you better be able to, like our second pass out of this, you better still be there. Because otherwise, we're going to find something, and you have to be able to rotate and take away option C too, because we're going to get to that. But I so much of the time it's like, what's wrong with the defense? And it is like, okay, like, yes, I didn't like the rotations they always had out there with Naz and Julius, but a lot of it otherwise was like, well, they aren't rotating. Like, they're miscommunicating. Like, they're not the help defender. This doesn't make any sense with what this backside guy is doing on the pick and roll. And it's like, that's not the game plan. And they would even say that. And like, I think Mike Conley said it at one point, like, it's not supposed to be rocket science, like what our defensive schemes are. And he was basically insinuating of like, our guys are making it look like rocket science. And it's not that. So it's the combination of those two things of like being in the right spots and playing a little harder and with a little more of like, no, I'm actually taking on my assignment. I'm not just standing next to the guy I'm guarding. And they're doing that now pretty consistently from the jump. And Jaden and Rudy are certainly sparking it, and everybody else is kind of following along. And Jalen Clark obviously is, providing a boost when he checks in as well. So it's like, I am intrigued to see them play. Denver's a tough one, but Denver as well. Sure. Like, good teams or even average teams. If they play this way,
Friday against Philadelphia. Is that the one, the front?
Friday is against Sacramento. We're in the middle of a Utah, Sacramento 4-game stretch. That's really good for all the pure basketball viewers out there who are like, this is high level stuff. Sacramento Cup game. So get fired up for that. Second revenge on their mind and a cup game. Like, that's going to be pretty intense.
Green on the floor.
Sacramento. Yeah. So I'm intrigued. Not only like, will we see the pressure and whatnot, but then also, will it look like they're bringing their best game against some of these offenses, or will it be like, oh man, the miscommunication's there again? And was it always there if teams could actually get to like the third thing they're trying to do in a possession? We'll see all of it. And so that's what I'm looking forward to moving forward. But at least now it's like, okay, they're bringing the intention to playing defense that's required, so we can fairly judge it moving forward.
I think a big question I have is, how good can they play defense, even with their best defenders out there, when they're fatigued? And I do think that's why the Denver game on Saturday will be an interesting one, because it will be a back-to-back. And I think that's like one hard. It's hard to play really good defense on back-to-back nights in the NBA, but I think we've learned, like, in the playoffs over the last couple seasons, that like fatigue is a weakness for this team. And they talked about it after the Dallas series. And I think we saw it in the Oklahoma City series and the conference finals the last two seasons. How good can this team be defensively when they're a little tired? I don't think that's just a regular season question for them. I think it's just this team. This team needs to have a level of above average defense, I think, to be a winner night to night, and probably needs to be a pretty good defense to really beat very, very good teams. So I'm curious of what it looks like when they're not fresh. That's just always made a big difference for this team for reasons that make sense. Like, fatigue is a real thing. I'm not being harsh on them for that. I just think that's one area with Nickeil Alexander-Walker where he was like a little fatigue proof, and you got the same thing from him all the time. I think it's part of the reason why you and I have been saying for a month that we think Jalen Clark needs to play, because you get the same thing from him defensively all the time. This team needs to play similar to the same defense all the time to be as good of a defense that they need to be in order to be a contender. So that's my open question with the defense. And then just in general, if like some of this execution can't sustain. Anything else on the defense? You want to move to McDaniels?
No, I'll move to McDaniels, but even tonight against Utah, like it's a back-to-back type thing. And yes, like Utah, we just saw what their best effort looks like, and Utah probably didn't play like a good game even by their standards on Friday.
Fifth game on a 5-game road trip for them,
right
on Friday. That's a fact.
Yeah, and that is something that oftentimes does get to teams, but still, no, okay, like Minnesota back to back, Utah, like probably a little bit like, okay, we want to play better than we did on Friday, and we saw what that looks like. How do we counter it? But can Minnesota bring the same type of, even if it's not as dominant, like the same type of energy and execution? Because it is like a night to night thing. Like, that's how you become a good defensive team. It's like you do it every night. And there can't be excuses on it. And so I think that'll be a really good barometer, frankly, even just this game of like, are you an every night team? Are you working
Mhm.
towards becoming an every night team? Because if you are, then you will do it to Utah again tonight. And I'm not saying you'll win by 40. I'm not saying the game will be over 6 minutes in, but like it will be very clear that Utah is having a very difficult time against your defense.
Yes. Today's show is brought to you by Storyworth Memoirs, and we are excited to have Storyworth back as a holiday season gift option for your parents or loved ones this year. The idea behind Storyworth Memoirs is that there's a bunch of stories that your parents or grandparents or whatever might have that you don't know. So how this works is each week Storyworth emails a loved one a memory-provoking question, a question that you get to choose. Questions like, what are your favorite toys as a child? What are you most proud of? A whole bunch of different things. And all your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story. And then after a year, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book. Photos are printed in color. It is a treasure your loved one and you will be able to share and revisit for generations. Customers really do love Storyworth. They've printed over 1 million books and preserved 35 million family stories since their founding 13 years ago. They have over 48,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. I use Storyworth, and I think you should too. Give your loved ones a unique keepsake you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth Memoirs. Right now, save $10 or more during their holiday sale when you go to storyworth.com/DaneMoore. That's storyworth.com/DaneMoore to save $10 or more on your order. Show is also sponsored by BetterHelp, and this November, BetterHelp is encouraging everyone to reach out, check in on friends, reconnect with loved ones, and remind the people in your life that you are there. Just as it can, take a little courage to send that message or grab coffee with someone on your team that you haven't seen in a while. Reaching out for therapy can feel difficult too, but it's always worth it. And it leaves you kind of thinking, why is this not something that I did sooner? We know the holiday season isn't easy for everyone, and it's important to stay connected. We're healthier when we have community and when we have support. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, having served over 5 million people globally, and it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on 1.7 million client reviews. This month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/DaneMoore. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DaneMoore. All right, let's do a little bit of Jaden, who is obviously a super critical part to the defense. I think this weekend we saw him being the same offensive player that he's been all season, while also kind of bringing the defense. And I just wrote down, playoff level McDaniels has been regular season McDaniels this year. That's what we saw from Jaden his past 3 postseasons, is an elevated level of play that was sustainable. And you got it like almost every single night in the postseason from Jaden. Whereas we know over the course of his career, this level that, the level he played at last night, it's not like we'd never seen him play that way before during the regular season. It would just kind of be maybe once a week or once every 15 days or something like that. I think we're seeing the evolution of Jaden McDaniels, and we can point to the transition and we can point to the confidence in the mid-range shot. But I think just ultimately what we're getting from him more than anything is a higher level of consistency. And Finch would always say, Jaden McDaniels is the barometer of the offense. And when he's playing really good offensively, then the team is playing really good offensively. Well, that barometer is just like up more often this year, consistently up. I think when Jaden McDaniels has been out on the floor, it's been a great story. And I think there's reasonable hope for it to be sustainable because we've seen something like this from him in the postseason multiple seasons.
Yeah, like the ability's there. I agree with that. And here's a stat. So he's not like this is like a high bar. And obviously what we're more so talking about recently is like, the 20+ point games, which are becoming very consistent. But he scored double digits every game so far this year. And last year in this first 11 games, he scored in single digits 8 times, like 8 out of the first 11. It was that bad. It was that like barely even part of the offense. And obviously it was also, and that's another good example. Like the offense was super clunky. And when the offense is clunky and the ball isn't moving, then it's never getting to the corner. Then it's never getting to the wing on him. So he's not even touching it. And if he does, it's 3 seconds left. Okay, now Ant's like, okay, I guess I'm driving here and then against a stacked defense, and it's just kick it to the corner because that's the play in that spot. But it's like, you haven't touched it for 4 minutes. Make the shot, like without dribbling or anything. And that's the worst version of Jaden on offense as we've seen. But now it's just moving a lot more to him, and he's just being, I think, perfectly aggressive I know where, like, confidently ripping the three when it's there, but then also like getting the ball and being like, I think I just have an advantage here in this spot, or I should prod here, and knows where his spots are, getting to them, executing. The level that he's finishing, even from his spots, has been just elite. It's like I got to where I want to get, but to still hit those shots, I mean, he's shooting like 70% on these looks. That's just like, it's hard to replicate.
Yeah, there's still mid-range shots.
Exactly. You know, it's 8 feet and there still is somebody in front of you. And it's
down there.
Yeah, right. It's really
short.
Right. It's really high level. Like it's consistently, he's doing it night in and night out. And like, so just the process has been so good for him offensively, and the results have followed. So it's like, this is a really, really, really good complementary offensive player for them right now. And like you said, like the defense is coming along with it. It's not, one isn't being sacrificed for the other. And it's because I don't think he's not trying to do too much offensively right now. He's like, he's staying in his lane, and the offense is good enough where that lane gets a lot of opportunities now. And he's taking advantage of all of them. It's really good.
To do the playoff thing again, what we've seen in playoff matchups with him is, teams trying to hide a worse defender on him. We've seen during the regular season over the years, a team putting their center on him and ignoring him at the 3-point line. Ignoring. Yeah. Like Porzingis, I remember the one game in Boston was just ignored him out on the perimeter. More commonly, I would say over the years, the way teams will match up is they'll try to put a really small guard on him. They'll hide their little guy on him. Yeah, and we saw that against Utah on Friday, and they put Keontae George on him, and now Jaden is just like, all right, this guy's 6'3", 6'2", like this is, I can eat this, and he's doing it every time. And there's an interesting ripple effect to that of, if teams can't match up the way that they want to match up, just in general, they're then putting together a worse group out there, or maybe it's a worse group if they have to change and Keontae George can't play in that spot, or they have to start somebody differently. It's such a gift as a defense when you can safely hide your player who's a problem on someone. We've seen that over the Kyle Anderson. We've seen that over the course of the years. We've seen the Wolves take advantage of that defensively on the other side. And I think Jaden, if nothing else, has blown that up. Like, you cannot hide, nobody's on him, and you can try, but he's going to aggressively attack it. Like aggressively, like this is almost like with an anger. He did it like an anger against Keontae George. I mean, they put Donovan Clingan on him in the opener in the Portland game, and he's like, all right, you're going to, like, these guys can't guard me, and he's going out and proving that. It's obviously big for the regular season, but I do, as we think about this team, in a bigger picture, and when it is a tougher opponent, it's not only a weapon, it's not a weakness anymore. There's power in that.
And I just think, like, we talk about Jaden and the highs of the playoffs, and certainly like the offense was much better and there were more like explosions, but I just looked now and like they played 15 playoff games last year and he scored 10 or fewer points in 6 of them. So it's not like it was a lot more like this still. Like, this consistency is better. Like, it's a continuation, but it's an improvement. It's an evolution even from that, because every night he's getting the opportunities and taking advantage. And when you talk about those mismatches, a lot of times that comes down to, I'm getting the ball with 10 seconds left on the shot clock, not 5. So I can actually do something. I can get to my spots. I don't have to be like, okay, it's one dribble and pull, or it's like, I have to take this 3 or whatever. I just think their offense is just so much smoother that Jaden's abilities can actually shine through right now. And he doesn't have to force something, because guess what? If it's not there, I'm probably going to touch it the next possession too. Just a lot of good stuff on that end. And he's just showing that, like, that barometer thing, it's just, I think it's proven more true than ever in my eyes of, like, yeah, they're playing good offense and he's having great games because he's
the third in offense. Like, they're an awesome offensive team right now.
He's getting to play from a comfortable state, and because he's touching the ball a lot, he's getting to dribble the ball, like he's getting to get to his spots and not be like, oh my God, I just touched it. I should probably shoot it. Haven't gotten it for a while. That type of stuff. Like guys talk about that all the time, like in just passing conversations and whatnot. And there's a real rhythm, and it's just for him and the entire offense, and you see the benefits.
Last thing, 10 games into the season, how should we feel the point guard situation has progressed?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're largely seeing that with what Julius is doing, and they are just injecting a little bit more pace. That when you do that, and you aren't just like getting into a stagnant half court set all the time, you can play without a point guard more often. Because Dante's been out there and but do you feel like he's played the position of point guard? Like, no, and that's great, and that's fine. Like, that's not a knock at all. It's like, that's perfect. He's more comfortable when he's not. The team is just like, Julius is doing a nice job initiating stuff, but when you play with pace, like, so many opportunities kind of flow a little bit more naturally. And so I think they're in a good spot. Like, you have like a Mike Conley if you need it, if things really stagnate offensively and you're like, hey, we need a shot in the arm, like Rob Dillingham is there. Like, they have options for it, but it's not a requirement right now, which I think it's only like when things really bog down where it's like, well, they need a point guard out there. It's like, that's when you know things are bad, is when it's like, where's a point guard to change everything, and it's not always just an obvious answer.
There was a stretch of the Utah game where both Mike Conley and Rob Dillingham were on the floor, and Julius Randle on consecutive possessions was clearly the point guard for the possession. Like, and it wasn't even transition. It was like they scored inbound, Julius walking it up with Rob and Mike in the corners. Like, and it was the plan. It was a made basket, and they did it numerous times. Like, the idea that quote unquote Julius and Ant are the point guards is the idea. That's what's happening. And, Finch said after the game last night that, Ant is doing a really good job as being the lead guard. With specific to the point guard situation and how they start the games. Yes, Dante DiVincenzo is the 2 guard. So he is not the initiator. He is running off of floppy. He is pinned, whatever, it's
they're running
what
actions
it looks
for
like.
him. Yeah, right. Like somebody else is initiating the actions for Dante.
Yes, so I don't know how that would be a point guard, but whatever. De facto point guard, that piece is working. Like, Dante's been great this season, except for the one game when he got moved into the starting lineup the night before the season opened, and he was kind of actually playing point guard against this team that all of a sudden out of nowhere decided, like, we're Portland and we do full court press every single time. Like, Dante stunk against that. He's probably gonna stink against that, but that's it. That's the only bad Dante game.
This is just like, this is not related to this conversation at all, but I just can't stand watching this team play against pressure, because I've never seen a team that is less likely to be like, should probably go help that guy. Should probably come back to him and make myself available for a pass, because my guy's not.
How about a big setting a screen?
Yeah.
How about
just
in the backcourt?
Just one. You're just there. Yeah. You're just there, and they just dribble around you, and it is such a release. And they are instead 4 guys. The guy who passed it in is like, see you later. And then it's like, just dribble in hell, like, and get the ball across. Otherwise you're gonna look really dumb if you turn it over. So don't. So I even think that there are solutions. You can say, what do you do against a pressure defense? I think there are solutions, very simple ones that 90% of the NBA teams do, to where that you can get by in those spots as well. If you, and again, maybe they didn't expect that game plan for it, whatever. But a lot of times it's the players on the court being like, oh, I remember in high school when I would come back and help the guy who was getting pressured. Maybe I should do that again right now. But I don't know. So go ahead. You can go back. Dante's been great. And like, I just don't think anybody should be asked to do what sometimes they are asked to do against a full court pressure of one guy. Go ahead and dribble. You got it.
Yes. And it's been better. I mean, there's still a really high turnover team. That's annoying, but it's a lot of the time the turnovers are coming from the same place that they always have, which is driving into a crowd, not drawing 2 defenders and getting off of it. Like, when they multiple defenders and get off it, Ant, Julius, whoever, and they don't play in a crowd, they don't turn it over as much. Julius turns it over once he starts turning his back to the defense. And as soon as that happens, that's like clearly in the scout. Like, Randle turns his back, the dig, from whatever guard is to his right or left. I think they have turnover issues, but I don't see them to be point guard specific turnover issues, again, outside of the full court pressure stuff that we've seen from time to time. I feel like Mike Conley has settled into his role, that he didn't really know what his role was in those first couple games when he was pretty brutal in those first couple of games. I think Mike gets it, what he's being asked to do right now. And he got it when he started for Ant, and he seems to get it still with Ant back into the starting lineup and Mike coming off the bench. And even Rob, like, I feel like Rob understands what his role is. Like, I think they've gotten to that pretty quickly of like, yes, is this your traditional point guard team? No, but I think collectively as a group, they kind of understand how they're pursuing the point guard position, if that makes sense.
I think it's because they view Mike as like a good defender, and they want him as the fifth leg of that lineup with Nas and Julius and Jaden and Jalen, and I think that makes sense. But it has been an interesting departure of like it divorced the marriage of Rudy and Mike to an extent, and I think that's went fine.
Started a fling between Rob and Rudy, though.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that's kind of been been something there.
So I don't know if the paperwork was finalized before that or if this has got a little messy. But yeah, like that's true. When Rob goes out there, a lot of times it is with Rudy, and I think that makes sense too. But I think that the Mike stuff, not having to play with Rudy, has gone fine. I think they're probably pretty pleased with that experiment thus far.
I think Mike benefits from that. I think Rudy was benefiting from that relationship.
Yeah, sure.
More
right.
than the Mike was. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it was they needed somebody who would involve Rudy, which is part of the story about this team overall offensively is a greater willingness to pass to Rudy, which I know drives people, myself included, crazy when it's not hitting, when it's not working. But they're throwing it to Rudy, and against bad teams, Rudy is catching the ball and scoring and finishing more often in those sort of spots. It is. I'm glad we brought up Rudy. Like, Rudy is very intertwined to the point guard position. His success over the years has been tied to his inclusion there. I just feel like the point guards collectively are doing a better job of doing that. Whereas Mike was the only guy who was doing that before. I think credit to Ant and Julius as point guards, their involvement of the bigs as rollers, not just Rudy, but Nas as well.
Rudy, I think, deserves a big pat on the back or whatever for how hard he ran the court last night. Sure. Obviously the beginning of the game, like that, the finish there, it's like a hold your breath and it's like, oh my God, he did it. But even like the lob from Ant was a great lob in transition. It's probably easier in those than in traffic or whatever. But like watching just the full head of steam that Rudy generated, like running down the court, it's like, okay, this is what everybody wants to do. And if you actually do it too, and you do it to the best of your abilities, because you will always be viewed as the weak point of that whole plan of attack or that thing they're trying to implement. And he was really doing it, being intentional about it. And it's like, okay, that's setting an example. That's making sure that you are trying your very best to fall in line with kind of the team's objectives. And so I thought that was cool last night. And I think it was cool that it worked out for him. Landed in an easy bucket. So it's like it's positive affirmation for all, but just like the intentionality of doing that, I think was pretty big of what is always going to look like and is the slowest player on the court.
I'm glad you brought up transition a couple times in this episode, because we talked about that so much before the season. Looked like they tried to do it for like 4 minutes in Portland, and then they're like, whoa. Like, let's just not turn it over. But I think we've kind of seen the seeds start to like grow a little bit of being more of a transition team. That one, like, Julius like laser hit ahead pass to Ant that last night in the backcourt, and then Ant went and hit that three in transition. Like, there is more of the head up, it's like the quarterback scrambling out of the pocket who's like both looking to run, but also like, is somebody open here? They've gotten more of that. I was skeptical how much they would do that. I don't think they've achieved their goal of what they want to be from a transition standpoint, but I do think we're starting to see some of the intention. And you brought that up. I bring this up related to the point guard position, because if you get out in transition, you don't really need a point guard that much, because now you're already playing into a mixed half court situation. And it's like, okay, where's our advantage? Let's just go. We don't need Mike to be like, we're going here. So yeah, that's part of the solution of point guard too. It's just playing faster.
I think it's been a huge advantage for them to have, and will continue to be for this next stretch here, of it's a great time to play terrible opponents because
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff that they tried to implement in training camp did not show itself in the first few games. But I think then that they have done a nice job of trying to emphasize it again against these teams, and it's working against these teams, and it's fun to do against these teams, and it all is like positive affirmation, positive affirmation, positive affirmation. So I think like maybe while it wasn't their identity coming out of the gates, and I do think that's important, guys even say that, like you develop who you are in training camp. This is almost like a second shot at it of like, hey, wow, look at the on ball pressure and the defensive like tenacity, and look at the success we're having, and let's push the ball, and it's working every time. Like if you can develop in this 2 weeks or whatever, like this is who you are, maybe you can carry that forward then. And then maybe then it does become your identity that can hold up against better teams because you're like, you have these memories of we did it and it worked. Let's keep doing it. It's just who we are now. It's what we do regardless of the time score situation.
Positive affirmation is good for this team, or like a confirmation of like, we did this and it worked in a whole litany of different areas. Do you have anything else you want to hit on? 10 games into the season for the Wolves?
I don't think so. Ready for another Utah game and then another Sacramento game.
And then 6 days from now, and they'll play Denver. This was fun, man. Glad we're able to kind of set the scene. 10 games into the season. Like Jay says, they play Utah again this evening. Britt and I will haven't had Britt on in a while. We'll talk about whatever happens in that game, and then just some general stuff with Britt tomorrow as well. Till then, you guys, you can follow all Jace's writing at the Pioneer Press, and you can follow him on Twitter at Jace Frederick. Until Tuesday morning with Britt Robson. He's Jace. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you dance.